Well, welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Heather Frierson, and I'm your host of the Business Spotlight podcast. And today I have Jamal English, co founder and CEO of EDM Network. And today we're going to be talking about his journey to business ownership, challenges, best practices, and really just share a sneak peek of what it's like to own and operate a business. So if this is your first time to the show, be sure to like and subscribe so you get a notification every time a new show drops, just like this one. Well, Jamal, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Appreciate you having me, Heather.
Well, if you could, for our listeners, just set the stage a little bit about who you are and a brief background about EDM Network.
Yeah, so, my name is Jamal English. I'm the CEO, co-founder of EDM. Um, we got a lot of different other portfolio companies, a part of our uh, major media company, but primarily we're a multimedia performance marketing technology company. We connect advertisers with curated performance-based campaigns, and, as well as helping publishers, monetize their current media buying and lead generation efforts. So we kind of sit on both sides of the field, both publishing media as well as actually buying the media. Um, my background kind of got started more so in sales, promotions, um, really kind of felt the leverage of, or I felt the effect of what leverage could actually
Mm,
do for a business, being able to actually take advantage of other people's time, skills, and abilities, that you may not personally have access to. So learned that very early. I come from a family of business owners. My
mhm.
dad, he owned about 12 businesses, car
Wow.
washes, restaurants, limousine
Mhm.
businesses, the full gambit. So he was a serial entrepreneur in a lot of ways. I kind of saw his grind. Uh,
Mhm.
my parents got us working very, very early in life. So
That's
I
good.
kind of been working since I was 7. So I got a very far leap ahead of a whole lot of other people in terms of
Yes.
just time in the game, if, just making things happen and just figuring things out.
Yeah, that sounds like it because not many people start that young doing anything, much less. I mean, mainly it's sports, so we'll say that for sure. But
Yeah.
having an entrepreneurial spirit from such a young age, how did that impact you, or how did you know? I mean, you kind of said how it impacted you, but how did you know that that was what you wanted to do lifelong?
You know, the most impactful thing that I got to see earlier is just
Mhm,
like the freedom and flexibility of being able to
mhm,
just make things happen. Um, I was extremely attracted to that. And my dad was in like the restaurant business, especially like a lot of these like heavy cash businesses. Like
mhm.
he always had money, so he was always able to get things done, and it just kind of made things a lot easier for us in life. My birth father died when I was younger.
Mm.
So when I talk about my dad, it's actually my stepdad, but he's
Oh,
always
wow.
been a father to us, and he's always raised us as his own. So I do see him in that light, and
Mhm.
he's kind of given us a different life and a different perspective of really what's possible.
Yeah. Well, before we get into the background of EDM, just curious, what was your business at age 7?
Oh no, I was just working in the family business, so
Oh.
I was working in the family business. My job was to peel shrimp. So we used to leave elementary school, go to the restaurants. I was back there peeling shrimp. I was the fastest shrimp peeler in the world. At just 7 years old, my fingers were small enough I could just
Yeah,
rip it off super quick. But
that's awesome.
yeah, we were going through a couple cases a night, and that was my
Wow.
just
Was it a
learning.
seafood restaurant
Yeah, seafood. Yeah.
there in Arizona or whereabouts?
This was actually in Florida. It's
Okay.
kind of where everything started, and then
Yeah,
Colorado, where we ultimately moved to.
that's so
Uh,
fun.
in my adolescence years, yeah.
Well, I love it. Okay, so EDM,
Yeah.
let's back to basics here.
Yeah.
How did you co-found this company and just tell us a little bit about that journey?
Yeah, so me and my business partner Rita, we're the two co-founders of EDM. Um, we actually come from the insurance space first. So
Mhm,
I met Rita when we were both selling insurance. So I had an insurance agency, he had an insurance agency, um, and we both kind of worked the, traditional door-to-door sales model of kind of working with.
mhm,
We were selling a final expense insurance product and a Medicare product. That was our primary products that we were really kind of offering to people. But out here in Arizona, there was actually very low return rates because everybody, like a lot of snowbirds, come to Arizona.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
return rates are low. It's a lot of saturation in the senior market. So my cost per lead was almost $80, but the conversion
Mm.
rate wasn't much better because of the media. Now, Rita, he was working predominantly direct mail leads was his whole
Mm.
business model. And he was able to get those at $35 because the return rates were high and there wasn't a lot of competition. And around the same time, Facebook had launched their beta program.
Mm.
So back in 2012 is when I initially started advertising. Um, and I started running ads specifically for the insurance space. And I was generating all my own leads and media for my insurance agency. And I kind of adopted a different model, which was appointments. So I had a team of appointment setters. They would book appointments, and then we would just go see and close them. But what most people were spending to buy a lead, that was actually my customer acquisition cost. So my
Mm.
cost per lead ended up being less than $2. Like my cost per lead at the time was less than $2. So
Wow.
able to generate very inexpensive leads. And then my customer acquisition cost was what everybody was paying for just one lead. So
Mm.
then I met Rita at a conference, and I found out about the conference last minute. I almost did not go, but I told my wife, I was like, I gotta go. And,
Mhm.
it was probably the most impactful trip of my life
Mm.
because that's where I met Rita. And
Yeah.
walked into the conference. It was a conference for builders, people that were building agencies. And the only seat that was open in the conference was next to Rita. Uh,
Wow.
so, you
Talk
know,
about divine appointment.
yeah. And then ultimately what ended up happening was Rita and I ended up kind of having a discussion about what he was doing, what I was doing. And Rita had given a speech about kind of his whole business model. And Rita's a super high energy guy. Like you would definitely get along with him, Heather, because he will definitely match your energy for sure. But
Thank you.
what ended up happening was like Rita was kind of giving a talk about door knocking and how his model worked, and everything
Mm.
was super aggressive with Rita. So he had this profound statement that I still kind of regurgitate to this day, which was he said, "Knock like the police, service like a fireman," and
I love that.
it was so profound because he actually had an example of how he was knocking on the doors. And I mean,
Mm.
Heather, if you would hear this door knock, you would be like, what the hell is going on? You would think the police is there for real. And as soon as the person answered the door, they're a little distraught, but he's able to get in front of them. And then he just smooth talk them
Wow.
and has a, more of a servicing type of approach. And that was his whole business model. So
Wow.
started talking about things, it really, and I'll bring this full circle, Heather, but when we started talking about things, I showed him what I did, and I was like, look, you write more business than me, but I make more money than you. And let
Mm.
me show you how. And it specifically came down to the cost per acquisition equation. If we're selling an $800 product and it's costing you $300 to acquire that customer, when it only costs me $30 to acquire that customer, I'm
Mm.
making way more money than you when we're looking at margins and profitability
Mhm.
wise. And this is what allows us to be able to really grow and scale. And he had to offer much more aggressive contracts to his downline agents and take a smaller override because they also had to pay for the leads.
Mm.
So I was like, look, let me run a test budget for you. Let's see kind of what the media comes back as. So he gave me $500. Um, we started running a test campaign, and that first campaign for Rita, ended up generating almost 600 leads. The cost per lead was less than $1. Um,
Wow.
so at that point, Rita started working the leads. He went to one door, referenced it. I always ask the secret question, so like, what's your favorite color or something like that. So it would be a point of
Mhm.
reference to bring up. Um, and he was just using that. And that week, he had his biggest producing week. He rolled over
Wow.
$60,000 worth of business off of a $500 investment. Um, I ended up spending a little bit more than that, Heather, but I just knew that the return was going to be there. And
Correct.
ultimately, he ended up saying, all right, I'm coming out to Arizona. Let's partner up. We're going to do this together. So we ended up creating
Wow.
a hybrid business model, where I would do all the marketing. We would bring agents on at a much lower contract level, but the top 20 producing agents or the top 20% producing agents would get preset appointments, and the bottom 80% would get all the leads that our appointment setters couldn't get a hold of. And that was the
Mm,
model. So that was the model, built that up, and that was where we had our first exit in transaction. And then we moved into the call center business. And this is kind of where EDM started. Now, my business partner, Rita, he also speaks 12 languages. So
oh
it
my
was very
gosh.
easy to communicate all over the world, talk to pretty much everybody that we need to talk to. So it made it very easy for us to start
Yeah.
working more internationally as far as being able to acquire the media, because what matters for call centers at the end of the day is how productive those agents are. And on an outbound heavy model, the actual talk time hours per day is almost half or a third of what it would be if they were actually consuming inbound traffic. And this is what we actually learned. So, if you're dialing outbound, and this is just the time exchange for money. So your customer acquisition cost is much lower when you're doing all the work doing the outbound.
Hmm.
You're
Hmm.
going to do less business because you're spending more time doing the front end work. You get what I'm saying?
Hmm. I
So
do.
that cost exchange that goes in there is something that we learned because we had one or two problems in the call center. We either had too many leads or not enough. And,
Hmm.
the conversation ended up being, do we want too many or not enough? So we made the decision to just get as much volume as we could. And then we started reaching out to our friends in the business that we had made over the years and showing them what we were doing. And they
Hmm.
started to buy the excess. And that's kind of where EDM came. So that overflow traffic of calls that we had coming in from our call centers that we were generating just to make sure that our rooms were fed, we started to sell the excess flow. And that's kind of where EDM started, because we started to see that there was actual call demand there. And this is pre-pandemic. So before the pandemic, everybody said the call center business couldn't be done, especially trying to sell a lot of the insurance products over the phone. But that's not true. There just needs to be a process established for it.
Mm.
And, we were kind of the ones to kind of pioneer what the process looks like to do the telesales process over the phone for a lot of these senior insurance products, which kind of
Hmm.
allowed us to be able to scale out all of our call center operations, ultimately generating more inbound traffic
Hmm.
and more advertisers coming into the queue. And then ultimately EDM started to supersede our agency business and,
Wow.
then in this angle. And, now we're just only selling media.
That's amazing story and journey. And from starting out in 2012 from Facebook ads
Mhm.
to 12 years later buying media for all kind of different clients in the publishing and media world. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
No, it's been, we got a life of Forrest Gump, when you put me together, we got a life of Forrest Gump.
Well, I was going to make a shrimp joke, but I won't. So what does having this journey or how has this journey impacted you personally, even as a business leader?
It's completely changed my life, in a lot of different
Hmm.
ways. And, I'm starting to see how a lot of, because I've always been very heavily on self-development. I went through a very
Hmm.
crazy phase from probably 14 to 19, where I was trying to consume as much information as possible. I
Mm.
still consume a lot of information, but, a lot of the books that I read earlier in my career are more so now becoming utilized and really becoming fruitful to
Mm.
really build a more large enterprise. One of the things that I think a lot of people get kind of wrong is, what are the progressive steps that you should take in order to get to the next level? And sometimes they try to skip a step. And when you
Hmm.
skip a step, you're not ready for that step yet. So some of that stuff that you think you should know isn't really applicable yet. Um,
Hmm.
and I kind of have this philosophy where, I train my team and any new team members that come in with us. You don't know what you don't know, and that's okay.
Mm.
But you got to
Hmm.
be willing to figure it out and go through the journey to learn, because that's where most people really learn the most, is from doing things and making mistakes and iterating on them.
Yeah. Yeah. So what makes you passionate about EDM and what you get to do?
Well, this is the first enterprise that I definitely see that has the potential to be $1 billion business. So that's the
Mm.
first thing. And then in terms of like everything else, is I get to see the full journey of multiple different businesses. I get to see what works, what doesn't,
Mm,
and I'm a student of business. That's my biggest passion is I love business. I love people doing deals and making things happen. So being able to have a glimpse of how every single business operates, what their sales process is, how do they service their customers, what priority do they put into the actual curation of their campaigns, like all of those things kind of like accumulated together, kind of like really gets me kind of giggly at
yeah.
this in a way because we start to get into the nuanced details of how
Mm,
everything works and how we can make it better. And it's constant integration, and you don't know what's going to work until you start.
yeah. Yeah, it's true. So, what would you say to our listeners out there that are maybe even just beginning their entrepreneurial journey and they're wondering how to advertise, if you will? What would you say to those leaders that are new in this area?
It depends on what you're doing. So some stuff, like if you're doing if you have a service based business, for example, you better offer that service for free. Okay,
Mm,
offer that service for free, and then get the feedback. Um, you know, most of the time you don't know what something's worth and you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes where you just kind of upfront and say, I just want to do you a solid. I just want to make sure that we can get either review or feedback from you. And then
mhm,
you kind of take that and you iterate off of that. So that would be like the best thing for anybody that's like uncertain of like what to do or how to get started.
mhm.
Do it first for free, learn it, see exactly what goes into it. It'll give you a whole lot more perspective. And then whoever you're working with will provide you more insightful feedback as far as what you're doing and how you could do it better.
Yeah, that's really good advice. You mentioned that EDM has the potential to be a $1 billion business.
A
When
year
you
revenue. Let me
a
be
year and
specific about that, Heather, because some people
okay,
are talking about value. No, I'm talking about revenue.
making revenue. Yes. So what would that mean to you and the business if that were to happen in 2025?
It won't happen in 2025, but when it happens, Heather,
Mhm.
specifically for us, we're looking at, really building a legacy here.
Mm,
This isn't just something that we're looking to have a basic transaction with or, um, kind of look at it from a short-sighted perspective. Like the business has no debt, no investors. Everything
mm,
is funded through just sales and making sure that we make money at the end of the day. Um, and that's really kind of what's been able to really make sure that we can control what the vision is and make sure we bring it to light.
mm. I love that you said building a legacy. When you think of building a legacy, what do you want it to say or do?
Really is outlive me. Is
Mm,
outlive everybody that's contributing to it. It's his own entity. I kind of see this business as its own person that I have to take care of. It's like a baby
mm,
we got to nurture. Um, the biggest part of legacy for me personally, I'm just going to speak for me, it's just making sure that we continue to iterate, bring value to the marketplace, and the business is always able to sustain itself and be its own identity. It's not
mm,
contained or not constrained to any one person. Like when you think of EDM, you don't just think of Jamal English. Like you think
mm.
of it as its own entity and what it actually gives you the opportunity to do for you and your business. That's really where I think the impact really will sit for us.
Yeah. I talk to a lot of business owners and legacy is a big deal. Because usually people aren't in a business per se for the financial gain, which it can
Yep,
be great, but it's more about leaving that legacy of what you built and how you contributed to the world. Am I right about that? Is that
100%. It's at a certain point, like money's not a motivator, okay? I see
mm,
money as the scoreboard. It's the scoreboard in a lot of ways
that's good.
in terms of like what you're doing, but it can't be the driving force that gets you down the field to score, you know,
Hmm.
because you will get knocked. You will get rocked and the market is not forgiving.
Yeah.
So the honesty that it does provide will tell you everything that you need to know to in order to make the right next strategic moves that you're looking to make.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about having a co-founder.
Yeah,
How does that work? Because it's been working for you for a long time, and
yeah.
that's not always the case. So, what is that dream magic ingredient that you and Rita have that have lasted for 12 plus years?
It's love. So it's not business, it's love. The amazing thing about Rita is like I've made a lot of money with Rita and I've also been
Mhm.
broke with Rita and he's been the same
Mm,
person. So like that is the differentiator is
mm,
knowing who you have with you and that person wanting what's best for you more than you wanting what's best for you, and like we won't do things for ourselves, but we'll go all out for each other, which is
mm,
what I think is like the best thing about our relationship. And there's no deals that we don't do together. All of our real estate deals we do together, all of our other
mm,
businesses we do together. Like anything we do, we kind of do it together. And it's just because it's like I can depend on him, he can depend on me. And
mhm.
if we're a team, nobody's gonna get in the middle.
Wow, that's powerful.
It's the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of stories that don't go as well. And so, if you've got that core, like you said, the mutual love and respect is so important. What about your team? Because you obviously don't just do this, the two of you.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about your team and your strategy and making sure that they have the same vision and passion that you have.
So I think the biggest thing is alignment and transparency.
Hmm.
So I'm very, very big on like Ray Dalio's perspective on radical transparency. Um, like I want everybody to know what it is. So
Hmm.
if because I kind of see this where people kind of set up think tanks between these large businesses and there's not open communication for where we have
Hmm.
issues. So like every week when we have our all hands meeting, I'll go through all of our critical pain points and then
Hmm.
we'll open it up for discussion. No matter what department you're in, if you have feedback or insight that's going to be able to drive change in a positive way that's in the best interest of the business, you're totally inclined to go ahead and speak your mind. And this is where a lot of people within the business have kind of identified themselves for new opportunities by ideas that they've been able
Mm.
to bring to the table that, if we would have constrained them to their own isolated box and not allowed them to be able to open up their mind and communicate, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of things wouldn't have happened, especially the problems that we're trying to solve, especially.
Yeah. What kind of leader would you say you are as far as a CEO?
Um, the team would definitely tell you I'm a hard driving leader. You asked me when I want something done yesterday. And
I
the
love that.
the big thing is as far as like I'll give you a framework for like a task or a project, and I want you to fill in the gaps. Okay.
Hmm.
And that's kind of how I operate. If you ask me how to do it, I don't know, figure it out. Like that's kind of where the perspective is. And it's more so just to kind of give free domain because sometimes with the framework that I establish is more so based off of like parameters I want you to take into consideration. And I want to see
Hmm.
what your ideas are that you bring to the table naturally. And then from there, we can iterate off of that because I feel like so much time is wasted having the front end conversation, trying to put so much thought into things and then it ends up not going anywhere versus
Hmm.
someone getting full domain and autonomy over a given task or project where they're able to think it through, they're committed to it, they're communicating with other people that may be stakeholders in whatever that project is, and they're able to get things done. And the conversations that we end up having after that, where we're having the iteration conversation, just becomes so much better. And we could just take
Yeah.
whatever they're thinking to the next level and just iterate on it.
Do you feel like by being a leader like that and creating a team that has that alignment and transparency has contributed to a lot of the success of EDM Network?
Uh, it really kind of it was a hard thing to transition to because I
Mm.
was that leader that did want to silo information.
Mm.
Um, and transitioning people from being silo communicators to open communicators was a transition all in itself.
Hmm.
Just making sure that everybody's able to know what everybody does, who to reach out to for what. So that required us to be able to put in so much more infrastructure. So that way people could have reference points to be able to, know who to go to for what and how to communicate about certain things. And just kind of seeing the process happen openly, just kind of give them the
Yeah.
the ability to kind of contribute so much more.
Yeah. I love that so much. You talked about legacy, and I kind of want to go back to that just a little bit. And you talked about where you see it, how it's continually going to be leaving a legacy, helping small businesses. Where do you see the business itself in, say, 10 years? And do you have a plan, maybe an exit strategy for yourself?
Yeah. So, there's a couple things that are, you know, um, in thoughts right now that we're trying to
Sure.
prep and prepare for. But in 10 years, we're definitely, doing over $1 billion a year. Really, I see EDM more as an ecosystem. We've established a lot of additional technology that kind of supports our primary. So we have a outsourced solution platform that we utilize to help companies source BPO talent, both teams and freelance individuals. Um, for various different business operations. So that's a very big part of our ecosystem. And then we also have a lot of data management and suppression software
Hmm.
that we've created as well. So, like if you're ever doing any type of data enrichment where you're appending data, or you're managing very large data sets and you want to be able to create, suppression APIs to distribute to your partners, we're developing that technology. It's already in the marketplace. Um,
Hmm.
and then, of course, EDM as a whole, there's kind of four product types that kind of sit there within that ecosystem. So, like, when we kind of accumulate all this together, we're going to be super beneficial to a lot of businesses in a lot of
Hmm.
different ways where they may or may not already know it exists. So, that's the biggest value proposition that we're looking to bring to the
Mm.
market is, we can service your whole business from start to finish and any outsource service or anything
Yeah,
you want us to be able to manage for you.
that's amazing. You have a lot of goals. So I'm curious, how do you set your goals, which I'm sure are really important? What's your strategy there?
Um, so it's not so much a goal, it's really more so a vision. And
Mm.
what I've kind of accepted is like I can't foresee the future, but I can envision the future. And the path will always unveil itself as we
Yeah.
continue to take steps forward. And my biggest priority is just never stop progressing. There's always something that has to
Hmm.
get done, and we're always going to keep moving forward, whatever that looks like. And it's just kind of figuring out, all right, what's the next step? What's
Yeah.
that next step that I need to take and execute on that's going to allow me to get close to what I envision?
That's the next step. It's really good. I love that. Before we get to our fun rapid fire questions, what do you want our audience to know about EDM Network and how you can help their business?
Yeah, the first thing is we give a fuck. So like, no, that's the truth. So like there's a lot of people out here that just don't give a fuck, and it's a big problem, especially in the B2B market. And
Hmm.
like we got a big team that wants to support everybody, and like
Yeah.
we've put all the resources in place to make sure that everybody can get what they need. Um,
Hmm.
and there's a whole lot of ways to make money with us. So, like, we can either help you as an advertiser looking
Hmm.
to acquire more customers and you make money that way, or you're a
Hmm.
publisher looking to monetize your traffic, we can help you that way. If you're a media broker that don't have infrastructure or want to have additional allocation, we have an avenue for you to make money
Yeah.
with us there. If
Wow.
you need assistance with getting attribution data to help retarget your existing customer base, we could help you with that. Like there's so many different mechanisms that we
Hmm.
could be able to add value to any business out there. And,
Wow.
it's more so just let's have a conversation. I always got
Hmm.
open lines of communication. I believe in that. There hasn't became a problem too bad yet, but no, we're just looking to help everybody. That's the
I love that. I love your passion. It's so good. It comes through for sure. I love it. All right, let's get into some fun rapid fire questions. You ready?
Yeah, let's get it.
All right, what would you say is the key to success for you?
Um, resourcefulness.
Mm, that's really good. Resourcefulness. What would be your advice to other business owners?
Be resourceful. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's just just let the path unveil itself as you continue to go, and
Mm,
really just don't take your foot off the pedal. This is a
mm,
lonely, lonely job. Um,
mm.
Responsibility and the burden you carry is not something that's often spoken, but it's definitely understood.
Yeah,
And anybody that's kind of in your position definitely knows what it's like.
for sure. I've heard that a lot, for sure, that it's lonely. And just surround yourself with really good people like you have, I'm sure.
No, for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
yeah. Book or podcast? What are you reading or listening to right now?
Um, The Dichotomy of Leadership. Is probably that was the book I was listening to this morning at the gym. But yeah, The Dichotomy of Leadership by Jocko Willink. Um, I do like those type of leadership books. So
Yeah,
that one's been
it's good.
helpful. This is actually the second time I'm reading this one, but I just kind of needed a refresher. So
Yeah, I get that for sure. All right, this is a really fun question. If you had a little bit of magic dust and could sprinkle it in one area of your business, where would you
mm,
sprinkle it?
um, it'll probably be customer service.
Mm,
Customer service. Yeah. Definitely, definitely rebuilding our customer service team right now, um, just to provide a much, much more robust and faster customer experience. Everything has kind of been very manual via email and all that type of stuff. I want live communication, real
yeah.
time, no wait, all that type of stuff. Yeah, if I could sprinkle some magic dust on that and that gets done, I would be super happy.
Yeah, we all need a little magic dust, don't we?
100%.
100%. Well, before we get to the last question of the day, share with our audience how they can find you, follow you, hire you, all the things.
Yeah, so jamalenglish.com is my website. EDMleadnetwork.com is our EDM website. You can find me on every platform out there. LinkedIn is probably the fastest way to get a hold of me. Super active on LinkedIn. My assistant manages that page, so we'll be able to manage communication, get back to each other very, very quickly. Jamal at EDMleadnetwork.com is my email address if anybody wants to hit me up that way. But yeah. We're
Good.
accessible
We'll link those in the show notes, a couple of those for sure. All right, final question of the day. What is most inspiring to you today?
today,
Mhm,
specifically today.
mhm. Or this week, this month?
Hmm. Most inspiring. Oh man, that's a great question.
Mhm. Besides this show and how much I brought inspiration to you.
No, for sure. I had a dinner recently, actually,
Mhm.
with a few M&A brokers that have actually been
Mm.
trying to, you know, bring some deals to the table. And it's been super inspiring to see how much interest the business has. Um, and like potential strategics and people that want to invest in the business. So um, that's kind of been super inspiring to see that
Yeah,
we brought enough value to the marketplace that a lot of people
it's great.
see it.
I love that. I love that so much. And I've loved this conversation, your energy, your passion, your vision for what you do at EDM and how you help other businesses, I think is just inspiring for
I
sure.
appreciate it,
So
Heather. Thank you. Thank
you're,
you for having me.
of course. And I just want to inspire and encourage everyone that's listening today to save the show because Jamal really did have some great business nuggets, tips, and tricks. And also make sure you reach out to him on LinkedIn and let him know you listen to the show. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe so that you get notification every time a new show drops, just like this one. And thanks for joining us today. But a special thank you to Jamal. Really appreciate you sharing your story.
I appreciate it, Heather. Thank you for having me. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye bye.
You too.